Everyone, welcome to another episode of Phil John's V.I.P. I am your host, Phil John. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. It's a rainy Saturday in the Big Apple, and I have been out and about in it, but I'm glad to be here with you all today. I'm excited about my new guest for tonight. Her name is Melissa Center. She is a filmmaker, she is an actress, and she is a visionary. She's had her work showcased and presented in a number of film festivals between New York and Los Angeles. And she's someone who I consider to be one of a person in the industry that I respect, someone that I've known a very, very long time. And she's now putting her energy into creating a one-woman show. There's nothing that she touches or nothing that she does without intention, pure intention. And for that makes her great at what she does. I am so proud that we finally got the opportunity to make this conversation happen tonight. And without further ado, I would like to invite the incomparable Melissa Center. Here we go. Here we go. Let's bring her on, okay? We're going to bring her on. We're going to be Saturday. Melissa, where you at? I'm waiting for you to come on. Pop on, pop on. I'm ready to see that smile. Let's do it. Let's make it happen. And there she
Okay, it is working. I'm always like, is it two by two? And then because I did this last week, I'm starting my own kind of version of this. And it was like such a shit show to get my colleague on.
No,
we're like,
you're good. I know, because sometimes you like fingers crossed.
yeah.
Because there's like this delay, right? Before somebody
Yeah.
pops on.
Yeah. So I I wasn't sure if I was like gonna get an invitation first or if I should join and
No,
then what, but
you did it the right
I
way.
did it the right way. So now I know how to tell other people to do it because I was like, ugh, okay.
Because when I jump on, I need the person that's coming on to request. And when I see them pop up, I'll let you
then
in.
you could be like, hey, you're good. Okay, so I did it right.
Yes. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. I appreciate it. But most importantly, thank you for joining me tonight.
You're welcome.
You know,
It's nice to see your face.
definitely. Same here. Listen, I want to jump into it. Now, I've known you for a very, very, very long time. And you're part of that. I call it my class in this industry who all kind of came up at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think one of the beautiful things that I'm starting to see with people now is that it's just not the actor in them that is blossoming, but it's all the things that come with the industry: producing, writing, directing, teaching, facilitating workshops, all of it. You know, and I find now that people are starting to move with intention, and intention is far different than years ago when we first started. So tell me a little bit about where it all came together for you. Wait, listen, we are both feeling the same way tonight, but
yeah, first of all, that's like I'm like I don't even know where to begin. Acknowledging the fact that like my brain isn't fully functional right now, and I don't know, I'm coming like very raw to this conversation.
Listen.
And like I feel like I look like shit because I've been just like trying to take care of myself all day today.
And let's mention that it's crappy outside. It's all day
outside. Yeah,
I'm fresh from doing laundry. You know what I'm saying? So it really we're pushing through this one tonight.
Yeah. So, and also I just like I have to say this and acknowledge that because of the times, like I do have family in Israel, and so my heart has been very heavy all week with the catastrophe over there. So that is, I'm sure, infusing some of how I'm showing up today, but I don't feel comfortable not acknowledging that because that is actually occurring in real time.
Absolutely.
How did I don't even remember the question that you asked me. How did I start?
How did it all come together for you?
I mean, it's still coming together for me is the real answer to that. It's always coming together for me. I still, I still half the time feel like I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
Uh, but I do and I don't, right?
Right. Right.
But I think that's like what our lives are as artists.
Well,
That's like
let me
that's like
start
what we
out. I'm just
on
going to jump
force.
into it because
Yeah.
there will be no segue tonight. So we just going to jump right into it.
Yeah.
I think for me, what I've seen in your growth and what I've noticed from from actress to filmmaker to producer is that everything that you touch has real intention. Some of it can be fun, but some of it has intention. I think we can only get to that level creatively if
Yeah.
we actually have lived
Yeah.
life and we've lived through things and we've overcome certain things. We're affected by certain things,
Yeah.
and all of that comes together in the work that we produce because now we have something to say.
Yeah. I think that's right. You know, I always thank you for acknowledging that and voicing that. I came from a background that was quite idyllic in many ways, right? I feel very, very fortunate to have had a family unit that was extremely supportive and loving, and lived in a community that was uh, a tight knit community and also very supportive of the arts and value placed on education and culture. And so that certainly, I think, gave me courage and confidence, or the understanding that like I could go for my dreams. And also, so I've always known that I wanted to like be an actor and a performer. And I've also been always like a major overachiever in my life. I was like a total school nerd and like straight A student. And I'm just like, I've been historically like a doer and goal oriented and fairly idealistic, I guess. And like, yeah, I'm gonna do the thing. And I think that's like a lovely thing. And I think coming out of school with that sense of like commitment and drive is good. And also, like, I had stuff to learn in terms of like lived human experience, right? So it's funny because when I think about myself as a young person, I've always been very sensitive. um
You're an empath.
yeah, yeah. And I've always like known certain things, but I was like so naive, I just wasn't exposed to bad things. I don't know how else I mean, that's such an oversimplification, but I feel like I was fairly sheltered as a young person. um and also, I'll say, like, in terms of my my drive to be a performer and actor and all of that, even at a young age, I was always like a hustler. I wasn't like given everything. I was like scrappy and had to like advocate and fight for myself along the way, you know. Um, but coming to New York, I went to Northwestern for excuse me, school theater or musical theater. Coming to New York was a big step for me in that I had grown up in the Chicago area. I went to school in that area. I knew I needed to like find myself outside of where I'm from, like my family unit and all of that, and really like find my own voice, self, humanity, whatever. Um, but you're kind of plugged into like what you're supposed to do as an actor out of school, like fresh out of Northwestern, whatever, getting in line at the auditions and like singing your heart out and like
Mm-hmm.
whatever, all the things, being the good student and taking the workshops and trying to and then and also feeling the struggle of that, right? So the struggle, I think, of just being an artist in an expensive city like does something to your being. And then I think one big turning point for me was studying with Wynn Handman, who became a mentor for my craft and just like as a human being.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, actually, that's it. I think he was the seed that like sprouted my voice, connected me to like the depths of my humanity, because he saw people very deeply, very clearly. He recognized certain special things in people, and he held a safe space for you to be exactly who you are. And so that, I think, was the I started to really hone myself and understand my own capacity, I think, in his spaces. And then I really had a desire to be like, to start fighting for myself, because, our industry, it's like so much of it is very surface level,
Yeah.
superficial a lot of the times, based on appearance or whatever. If you're on theater or film, same, right? And at the time I was trying to um, fill both spaces, but in theater, I'm very small. I'm 5'2". I look very young. I bet no one will guess how old I am. But even then I looked like very young. Like, I've just always had a youthful kind of way. Today, after, crying and whatever mourning we're all doing, I don't, but under normal circumstances.
Right.
But no, at the time I was like a, baby and very petite. And so I felt very pigeonholed into like, stuff that felt very trite to me. And I'm like, no, I have more that I have to say as a person,
Yeah.
and like just a deeper understanding of humanity. And that doesn't necessarily like line up with what's available for me out there in the world, in theater and musical theater at the time. And then in TV film, I was struggling to get into those spaces, because I felt like, since my background was, did musicals and that kind of thing, I was like, I felt I was pigeonholed as like, oh, you're a musical theater actor, and I'm like, can it be yes and?
Mm-hmm.
So that was some friction for me. And in that friction is when I started to, so in that friction, in working with Wynn, he gave me an opportunity to originate this solo adaptation of The Giver, which is a novel by Lois Lowry, with a program that he had through his theater. And that was like such a huge growth experience, such an honor. And I created a template of like really my capacity as an artist, human, and to show up. Like, I remember the thing premiered at Museum of Jewish Heritage downtown, big huge auditorium, and solo show. This is my very first solo show, hundreds of people in the audience, and so just like that exercise alone, to like do that, to be able to do that, was like, oh, I didn't know I could do that. He saw that in me, and so I created like a template of like, okay, I actually can step into things like this. So with that kind of confidence building, and then the desire to bust past I think like the roles that were coming to me, or the spaces where I was invited, I created my web series. So that was the first thing that I ever made as like a creator, before it was like a popular thing to do. And it was simple, like it wasn't anything fancy. It was kind of silly and quirky and fun. It was a web series called Misconnections Live, and I came across Misconnections postings on Craigslist that used to be a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, this is a treasure trove. And because I was already doing work in, you know, with character and inhabiting very different people from who I was, like in the theater world with Win and in his rooms, I was like, oh, it was just such a natural extension of what I was doing with him. So why not film it, right? I had people around me who could help me with that. And I wanted to start having something that I could show for myself so I could start being considered for stuff on screen. And that was like, yeah, that was the beginning of my career as also a creator. I like produced it. I taught myself how to put the thing together. My then partner would shoot and I learned how to edit and essentially like self-taught produce and self-taught how to direct in a very simple way. But as I went along, I got more creative with it. And I like just got the bug to continue on that path. It was so empowering. And I got validated for it too, right? Like I was invited to be one of the original Digital Caucus members through the Writers Guild because they were trying to bring together all the best like New York-based creators at the time. So I was like, oh, I'm not just an actor, although blessed to all of our actor brothers and sisters, like what a noble existence. And sometimes it can feel like you're at the bottom of the totem pole.
Yeah, truly.
That's a very long-winded answer, but
No,
that's
no, 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 no,
how
no,
it
no,
started.
not at all. I want to ask this question because I feel the need to ask it now. I usually ask it later on in the conversation. But what do you know now about the industry opposed to what you thought you knew coming in?
I still don't understand anything about it. But what I know, okay, what I thought going in is that you would be like chosen, you know, like, oh, so and so is discovered, you know, and that's
Right,
sometimes does
right.
happen. Like someone is like plucked from the ether, but
Mhm.
like usually not, right? And I thought like, oh, if I just like worked hard enough, I'll be chosen too. Um, and I also thought that trying to get myself in front of people who, if I was here, were here, then they would pluck me or something. You know what I mean? Like they would grab me and say, "You can be in my movie" or whatever the fuck, right?
Right.
And I heard when I was younger, like look around at your peers because those are the people who you will, you know, who will you'll rise with. But I didn't understand that fully until now. You know, I because you're always like, how do I get that thing that other person has? Who's 10 years ahead of me or whatever? Not realizing that you're just like whatever you're creating or whatever you're putting out there, you're kind of just like escalating yourself.
Right.
You know, and I know like Mark Duplass has a whole video about this exact thing,
Right.
and it's like he's so right. You know,
Right.
he's such a great example of like he literally built his own career and continues to do so. You know, it's not like the Hollywood system is necessarily yeah, he's self-generating. I think the majority of what he puts out there in partnership with his brother. And um so that, and that you can do that. Like I kind of knew, oh, you can do that in like super scrappy indie ways,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but there also exists a world where you do the same thing but make slightly different decisions and you get the thing that you're trying to get someone else to choose you to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that, I think that's what I've learned and I'm still learning.
And for me, it feels good to see your peers grow and move into areas you didn't think that they would ever move in. You know,
Yeah.
now you drop the name Kate Geller, people are like, but it's like, yeah, I worked with Kate when we were at the network.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's kind of like, I know her at a different level.
Yeah.
I knew her before she got married. I remember when she was planning the wedding.
Yeah. It's so funny. She's casting so speaking of like how we all come up, she's casting one of my now clients. This is so convoluted. So I, in addition to my like storytelling and creative work, I help artists, filmmakers with their crowdfunding campaigns. So I like act as their coach and consultant. And one of my current clients, they have a campaign going right now. It's called Need, the short film,
Mm-hmm.
KNEAD, like kneading dough. So Timothy Michael Cooper is the director of that.
Mm.
And he was in my original Writers Guild Digital Caucus as a web series creator at the same exact time when we were both starting out. So he had a show that he created. I'm forgetting the name, but we were like in that first cohort together. Yeah. Kate McKinnon was in his short. Okay.
Wow.
Who was hilarious in it, but like a no one at the time,
Right.
but then shortly after SNL. Also in our cohort was Julianne Emery, who's a phenomenal human and actress, and Michael Cyril Crichton.
Yeah.
Okay. And a bunch of other amazing people. And so Tim is now like I'm his coach consultant for his crowdfunding campaign. Now, however, years later. And Kate Geller is their casting director.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. And it's just like you cannot predict where you're going to go or how this thing is going to turn out for you.
Yeah.
I met, well, I probably said it before, but I probably already told my agent already, so it's fine. I was working one night at the network when we were on 36th Street, and in walks Ron Palillo. Now, there was a show back in the 70s called Welcome Back, Kotter, and Ron Palillo played Arnold Horshack, and he walked in that room because I'm such a nostalgia. I'm so old school. He walked in, and my heart dropped because I don't, when you're in industry, everybody's on television, everybody's on Broadway, but when somebody walks in who you were watching on television, like when your bedtime was at 8, and now you see them, it's
wild.
The thing I remember him telling me, he said, Welcome Back, Kotter was only like 4 years of my life, but I've had this extended theater career that nobody ever asked me about, and I realized that there's never a there to get to, right?
Yeah.
We just keep going.
Yeah.
And then it looks like, even though it looks like we're like really, really connected, and we just came in and everybody was like, we love you. It doesn't happen that way. You go in and you grow together, and before you know it, you have people sitting in seats that are making decisions for you and making decisions in the industry. And it's not that, I just happened to meet them at the workshop. It's like we really were in it together.
Right.
And it's just, it's like you said, it's a class, and we grow together, and people just, it's like a root of a tree, and then the branches come out, and it produces beautiful fruit.
Yeah, that's lovely.
Definitely. So let me ask you this question: what advice would you give your 19-year-old self?
What would I give my 19-year-old self?
What advice?
Breathe. I would say breathe. Rome wasn't built in a day. It's all going to be okay. I would tell her, this is tender for me, like to not be afraid of all of the aspects of who you are, and that the sooner you can embrace all of those things, the better served you'll be. Yeah, I think we're told as young people in a often hostile world to like hide parts of ourselves,
Mm.
right? To so that we can, especially like in the industry, and now things have shifted and so in such a big way. But even then, it's like you need to fit whatever's available out there for you. So you don't, so you know what I'm saying? You want to like kind of compartmentalize yourself so you can be chosen
Mm.
um, for whatever the template is there, whatever that framework there that already exists. Um, but always, and this is not unique to the entertainment industry. I mean, you know, ultimately the people who are unique and advocate for themselves like make the biggest waves. But I was very confident as a young person, as I said earlier, but not wholly, you know. Um, so it took me a very, very long time, and it's stuff I still like grapple with. How much of identity do you like bring to the table, right? Um, and that for me pertains to like being a Jewish person. I'm wearing my chai, right? Like I would have never worn this really because I was like, oh, I'm not that Jewish, right? Or like, you know, whatever roles were available to a Jewish person were slim. And so you want to be able to be cast as anything,
Such a
right?
such a
Um,
market. It's like it's insanity when you
yeah.
think about it.
Yeah. So, and then it's like, um, even as a young actor, I remember like auditioning for some like fucking Hanukkah musical. And I was then informed like I wasn't Jewish looking
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
So like, how do you show up in that, right? And now it's just like, no, fuck it. Like, I'm a Jewish woman, you know? So like that. And then in terms of like identity outside of religion, right? In terms of like, I'm a I'm gonna get the gender things conversation wrong, but like I'm a she her, right? But like some people are not. And so how do you stand in your own like in your own gender identification or sexuality, right? Like that was something that for me took a very, very long time to feel comfortable in my own self and even like outwardly expressing like in, I still don't know how to label
Mhm.
myself, but I'm not a straight person.
Mhm.
Like I guess I'm bisexual, or you know, I still I struggle to with the language around that, and I think that like queerness in for a woman as an actor when we were growing up, like that was that didn't exist.
Right,
I'm not sure
right,
that
right,
existed.
right, right.
Um,
Because we were always told to kind of walk into the room as a blank canvas and
right.
allow. I remember there was a class where, and I think I've done this when I taught too. Is like you get a piece of paper and you have all of these kind of identities. You know,
Yeah.
um, bus driver, single mom,
Yeah.
secretary, and then Pete, you walk into a room and people have to check what they think
Yeah.
they see.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So you're used to kind of like, okay, if people are seeing this, then I'm going to lean that way
Yeah.
going into the room to meet an agent, casting director, or into an audition. If
Right.
people, and I always say, people always wanted, it's like I walk into the room and people are like, I just, I like your energy. I just want to have a drink with you.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, but I'm the guy that will probably shoot you if you walk out. Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
be the one, but when I come in, it's not like that. So it's like I can see how you can have almost like a complete misfire of kind of like how you see
Yeah.
yourself, because in industry you're trying to say, well, if I go this way, this is going to get me the
Right.
job.
right. So then, but
And
then
then you kind of
so
lose
you're kind of
yourself
like
in it.
erasing yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and you're erasing the juice and the stuff that actually makes you most compelling as an
Yeah.
actor. So then it's like you're a generic something,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not what really connects people to you.
Yeah.
I think that someone's always going to be like, oh, I can place an identity on you, but you're going to ultimately get the job for like all the nuances
Yeah.
you bring within that
Yeah.
context. So if that's true,
Yeah.
then people are like, you can be a cop or whatever. Like, like, oh, hello, dad. Like, whatever the fuck,
Yeah. Yeah.
excuse my language. But if you're trying to like be everything to everybody or like erase parts of who you are, you can't get to that authentic like connection in the material, in the words, or in front of your reader, or you're just like censoring yourself the whole time.
What would you like your legacy to be?
um mm.
I'm sorry, I just ate arroz con habichuelas, and and I have like food on my lips. Sorry.
Oh, you're great. I didn't even notice anything. um my legacy, I've always, and I think I you do those exercises when you're younger of like writing down your vision. I always, years ago, there was something about being a mirror, just being a reflection, showing. I learned this from Win too, my mentor. It's like showing humanity to themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's something very like simultaneously, like obviously that's what you as an artist does, simple but like very profound to that idea.
Yeah.
And that requires, I think, a very specific understanding of like humanity and truth. And I think in my work, I haven't even necessarily consciously sought out to do that, but like, with my film stuff, I mean, anything that I've created now, I feel like actually invites that. Um, so I think that's part of it,
Mm-hmm.
to be like a mirror.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, I do want to have lasting impact. I think we all do as an artist, to know that people engage with my work and either could see themselves reflected, or like could experience just like a minuscule even like shift in their being,
I get it.
from experiencing me. That I think that's it.
Because we that's what our job is to do, is to tell the human story.
Yeah,
And it doesn't always look good,
right,
you know. It life doesn't always have that happy ending,
right,
you know. And I feel like for people to judge what we do in a way as if though we're doing something, um, or we're misrepresenting any group, cultural group, I think it does us a disservice, because Maya Angelou said it best: "Nothing human is foreign for me. Anything's human. But if human being is capable of it, so am I."
yeah, yeah, it's true.
What brings you joy?
The the way that you asked that, I felt like all of a sudden I'm like, you're James Lipton, and this is like inside the actor's studio. It was like so like intense in the best way. And I feel like embarrassed that I can't even like have a instinctive answer to that question. Um, many things. I mean, being in communion with like fellow artists gives me joy. When I was doing my like 2 Tuesdays, that gave me a lot of joy. So like, yes, like singing and dancing. Um, my dog Scout. um, the magic of New York City. Like in general, being out in the world, being in relationship to environments, and that really, I think, enlivens me.
What are you grateful for?
I'm grateful to a lot. I'm grateful to come from a loving home. I'm grateful for every opportunity that's been presented to me. I'm grateful to live here in New York City. I'm grateful to be an artist. I'm grateful to know so many, including yourself, smart, compassionate, open-hearted, beautiful people. I'm grateful to be in my body. I'm grateful to have freedom to really, I mean, do whatever I want, ultimately. I'm grateful to have brains and compassion that I can put to good use. I'm grateful to all the people who have joined us today.
Yeah.
Many of which are dear to me, who I really miss. I'm grateful to be connected to so many wonderful people, even if, we're on this like freaking device. And I did see you in the flesh recently.
Yes, yes, yes. At
But
Rosebud Island Film Festival.
Yeah, for that spontaneous stuff, I fucking love that.
Yeah, that was good.
But it's hard to feel connected to other people, really, because we're missing the like physical presence of others, and it's a different experience.
That's the thing. That was the beauty about working at the network, is that we saw each other everybody was always passing through.
Yeah.
We always saw each other. Somebody every night there was something new happening.
Yeah. I went to my first in-person commercial audition a couple days ago. Saw Kathy Searle, who is also
Kathy, I haven't seen. Yeah,
in our class and in the waiting room, and I was like, oh my god, it had been years since I was like in that environment. Well, first of all, in that office, I don't know if when I was here the first time, if I was ever at Beth Melsky's office, I don't know when that came to be, but regardless,
Madison.
I haven't.
Madison, right? Is it still on Madison?
No, it's in Midtown.
On Madison?
I don't remember. Maybe
I
up some elevator. Anyway, but to be in a waiting room with other actor people, like, and going into a room with a camera and feeling like shit, but being there.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, you missed that
Mm-hmm.
interaction. And like, yeah, I saw Kathy. I haven't seen her in person in freaking years. And it's
Yeah.
like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So missed that. Grateful that hopefully more of those opportunities will present themselves to connect in real
Yeah.
time. And grateful that we do have the technology to communicate and connect with people who aren't in our backyards. Because I'm seeing, Los Angeles people, Chicago people, and all over the place.
Well, we got to talk about, and I hope I'm quoting this title right. I married Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, marrying Jake Gyllenhaal,
Marrying
but
Jake.
yeah.
So I gotta, and because I've never asked you about this
Yeah.
before. What gave birth to that?
So many things.
What was it?
The original seed was planted because my mom literally, so I moved to Los Angeles maybe a couple years in. I ended a 10-year relationship. So I was single and ready to mingle, sort of. Or at least like forcibly, like, here we go.
Right.
And apps were new. Like that whole world of like, now we're on freaking app dating was brand new. And my mom sent me some newspaper article about Jake Gyllenhaal. And I was like, all right, Jewish eligible bachelor.
I'm sorry.
You should clap.
It's just when the first time I saw it, I just started cracking up.
You should.
I was like, what is Melissa doing?
Uh-huh.
But it was so funny.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't stop. I was like, what's next?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I hope she doesn't get a stalking charge.
I know, right? But it's so she sends me this article and I'm like, this is dumb. And then she like wouldn't stop sending me shit about him. And it went on for like a long time. And it was kind of funny, but also like kind of annoying. And then it became like a family joke of like, can you please tell mom to stop? Like, this is absurd.
Right.
But all the while, I was having a real struggle in Los Angeles in lots of ways. But in my interpersonal life, my dating life was like ultimately pretty horrific. It's
a different town.
And, like trying to go with my career and like be able to fucking pay my bills and encountering many bad things in terms of my like dating life. And so that was some ripe fertile ground for creation. But as I was going on in my life, he would somehow come up, or like I'd be a degree apart from him again and again and again and again and again and again and again, enough that it was like it became weird. So it was too much that I was like, I have to do something with this, right? Like this, I can't just accept the fact that this is just weird coincidences all the time. Like this is too much. So I originally started writing a like rom-com screenplay in a writing class, and then set it aside, and then made, because I think I had finished my feature film at that point, that I made a couple things that were just like producible, that I could actually make at that time. And all the while, like still he was coming into my ether, and so it was like adding to this arsenal of kind of material. And then I got to a point in my being where I just was not myself. Like I was a very like sad person and exhausted. And a friend of mine invited me to like a women's only writing group, like a very small, intimate group. And I had finished a lot of my filmmaking stuff. I had nothing that I was working on, or I'm like, I don't know. And I felt depleted in my spirit. I a couple of times I was like, do I move back to New York because I'm not well? But then like something would like keep me there. Um, Whew, wow. And so I show up to Angela, my friend Angela's, actually it was her friend's backyard, Monica. Is that right? I forget whose backyard it was. But the first session, and I like came with my laptop and I'm like, I have no agenda. I'm like, bloop, open up the laptop. And I like got this download. And then I started just like write. And it was like the opening scene to this show. And I'm like, oh, I'm writing a play. Okay. Boop, 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 boop. And then I was like starting to hear songs. I'm like, blah, blah, blah. And then I read it out loud, and it was the beginnings of my solo show. I was like, I guess I'm writing a solo play. Okay. And I read it out loud, and everyone's did you just start this? I was like, yeah. And you know, when you're writing something, you're like, I don't know, this could be terrible, right? They're like, this is hilarious. We want to see this. And so I was like, oh, okay, I guess, maybe, you know, and it kind of just kept pouring out of me. And then I, around that time, attended this Seed and Spark Creative Sustainability Summit. And in advance, so like it was all day panels and that kind of thing, or like how to build a sustainable career as an independent filmmaker. And speaking of Mark Duplass, he was the guest of honor, and the big event of that day was they were gonna have 3 filmmakers on stage with him to pitch projects to him, and he was gonna help you like kind of hash out your project. And Tanny, who was on here earlier, I don't know if she still is, but we were partners, business partners, dear friends, and producing partners at the time. And I remember talking to her about the thing, and she's like, submit something. Like, I don't know what. And I had like a 3/4 draft of some pilot that I wrote about inherited ancestral trauma. And so I was like, all right, I'll just like put in that, because Mark is vocal about depression and anxiety. And there were like themes in there that I'm like, maybe he can help me and say something like wise, because I did not want to write it. I was like, this feels like it's in me, but I'm like resistant.
Right.
So we go up to the event, or I go to the event, I show up by myself, but then the girls in my writing group are also there. And we're like, hey, you know, sit next to each other. And my spirit at that time was not good. And I also remember speaking to Tanny in advance. I think I was shortly there before. I was in an airport coming to or fro my hometown. And I remember saying to her, like, I don't think I believe in magic anymore. Like, I used to believe in magic, and I don't even believe in that anymore, you know? So we're at this event, and then it's like the people are going to talk to Mark. And I assume that they notified the filmmakers in advance, like who is going to be pitching. So we're like, oh, it's the time. Everyone's all excited. It's like hundreds of people in the audience. And they announce the first person, Wanjiru, and I was like, woo! And I said to my girlfriends, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so glad it's not me. Like, I would have no idea what to say. Melissa Center. I like panic. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. They're like, yeah, you're gonna be great. And so I like, you know, I'm like going up on stage.
Right, exactly.
I'm in the middle. I'm like, okay, well, deep breaths, like use my mindfulness. Like literally like self-regulate. I'm like, what is my thing even about? I hadn't looked at it in months. So it was Wanjiru, me, and then my friend Melanie, who, and this is like, I'll explain why I'm saying this in a second. But she and I had both had short films screen at Portland Film Fest, not too, like maybe within the year prior. And we had known each other from when we first moved to LA. She was also a former like New York person, and she was wearing this like rainbow shirt. And there's a picture of us on a women's filmmaker panel from Portland Film Fest, and she's wearing this rainbow shirt there. And so suddenly she's on stage right next to me, and we're like, how are we here in this moment together, right? So Wanjiro is like so bright and like on top of everything and phenomenal. And I'm like, oh God, like, I don't know how to put words together, and I don't remember what my show's about. So I'm like, you know, what can I say that's a complete sentence? So I like pitched the show, and I was like, okay, that sounded decently intelligent. But I said to Mark, like, I have to be honest, like, I'm really resistant to continue working on this.
Yeah.
And I think he saw in my eyes that it was like, you know, tough. So he said, okay, knowing that, is there anything that you're like excited about right now or that you want to be working on? And so I was like, well, I mean, I happen to be writing this play, and I wasn't going to talk about that because this was a film thing, right? So I'm like, I happen to be writing this play, and I turn out to the audience and I say, my mom's convinced I'm supposed to marry Jake Gyllenhaal. And everyone's like, bah! You know? And so then Mark's like, tell me more. And I'm like, so I'm writing this play about it and blah, blah, blah. And he like jumps out of his seat. He starts acting out scenes. And then he's like, you know, this is still connected to the like inherited ancestral trauma. It's just like a package, you know? And I'm like, oh, great. You're so brilliant. And then Emily Best, who's the CEO of Steven Spark, she's like, someone here knows Jake Gyllenhaal. Like, we got to get these people connected, you know? And he's like, I know Maggie. And we're all like, oh my God, what is happening? Or I was like that. So
that's hilarious.
So this gave me a lot of wind under my sails to be like, you must keep going with this. Yeah. And then he gave me the suggestion actually of filming it. He's like, I know this, you think this is a play, but you should also like rent a LA theater, get some friends there, film it, so you have something too. I was like, that's brilliant. I didn't think to like meld the worlds. And that's what I ultimately had to do, because I was supposed to premiere at Edinburgh Fringe, and then COVID shut down.
Yeah.
So it was originally produced as a live stream with 3 cameras, and then plugged into the Edinburgh Festival the next year in their hybrid.
So will we be able to see a little snippet of that soon?
Well, so here's the deal. That full production does exist. It did have like a life and a run. I moved back to New York, and my goal has been like, cool, it's time to like get this live in theater form in front of humans. And I did learn some information that I felt was very, very pertinent to the narrative. That I couldn't unsee, that I was then needing to weave through in a responsible way. So that was taking me some time. And then I got it to a place where I'm like, okay, cool, let's move forward with this. So it's been like rebirthing, in that I had to go through some revisions. My original director, Michelle Bossy, who's phenomenal, and I adore her, love her, is in LA. And so we decided it was going to be very hard to like continue, because she's very in demand and busy and just like there, and I'm here. And so it was going to be just, you know, hard. So I had to find a new director here in New York, who I did, Jen Weinman. And we put together a reading of the new version this summer. And now I'm going through some like revisions again. And my goal is to have it up and running, at least in a next step production, you know, early next year. So the answer is, you know, the version 1 exists in recorded form. This version, it's not wildly different, but it's simultaneously like more meta, more meta, some new songs, so even like more wacky, and also like deeper in what I'm standing for. and in terms of feminism,
Right.
identity, feminism, busting through preconceived notions of how women should be in the world.
Right.
So you'll have to wait and come to my open nights.
Well, like I said, everything you do is with intention. So I appreciate that. Melissa Sena, everybody, thank you so much.
Thank you so
much.
much. I'm glad that I made myself do this today, because I was literally like in a pile most of the day.
Yeah.
And felt like a pile of poo, just because, and so this gave me some purpose for my day, and I can feel good about showing up for you and for your community and my community as well. Yeah. So I don't feel like a total waste of a being. Yeah. So thank you for that opportunity.
Thank you for being willing to come. Yeah. I do appreciate that. We're praying for everything. We're praying for the world. Yeah. That, hopefully we can come to a resolve, and then we can just come together. I'm a person of great faith, so I will continue to pray.
Thank you. Right. You are the most delightful, and I'm grateful you are my friend.
Thank you. Same here. Have a good night.
You too. Thanks, everyone.